Good, and taking that breath without the hands there, we can still bring our awareness here. And if we follow those ribs back, just so that we're all on the same page, if we follow the ribs back behind you, if you can take your fingers or your hands and follow back behind you, somewhere back in here nearer to the spine, and maybe just underneath those ribs are going to be where you'll find kidneys and your adrenal glands sitting on top. And so that area of your body will be what I'll reference to your back body or just below the shoulder blade area. So when you're breathing today, the more we can think of breathing here, or if it works for you, those side ribs, the more we're going to be giving that area some attention, some nice calming breaths. So I'm going to take your arms out to the side. And let's do some circles to warm up the shoulders. So I'm reaching out through the fingertips. And I'm going to soften my knees. Find those breaths. And we'll go the other direction with our little circles here to start. Finding the breath. Good, and let's go the first direction and let's get a little slower or and bigger at the same time here. So a little bit bigger with your arms, and yet you're still reaching outward with your fingertips. And then we'll go the other direction one more time. And if arms are getting a little bit fatigued, that's kind of a good sign. We want to warm up a little bit. Those shoulder muscles. Good. And then bringing the arms down. And just kind of checking in. How are we feeling here? Good. We're going to take those arms up, this time fingertips toward each other. And your upper arms, whether we know it or not, are internally rotating. Those the humerus heads are coming forward here. So let's take the fingertips toward each other, soften our knees, and we're going to slowly reach out. Again, warming up a little bit more arm lines, reaching out so the hands can straighten out. Reach out through the fingertips. Take that breath in between the back ribs, or maybe the side ribs works for you. A little deeper breath. Good. I'm going to keep those arms active here, bringing them up. You can take a break anytime you need to. I'm going to take those arms upward. Same breath. Same breath, inhaling ribs. Good. Let's bend the knees a little bit. Oh, shins are coming forward. Maybe not my deepest chair pose. Kind of testing out the waters. Good. Breath. And then extending the knees and bringing the arms down. Good. Let's take the feet wide. I'm turning the toes out a little bit. Not my widest stance, not my smallest stance, a little bit bigger squat for our sumo. So I'm going to bring my hands to my hips or my waist. Exhaling. Inhaling to come up. Exhaling down. And you're welcome to work at a pace that works for you here. So if you want to go a little bit quicker, feeling like you got some energy you need to move faster, I promise we'll be getting there. Exhaling down, pressing down through your feet. So we're really connecting into the feet again. And those of you that have been practicing with me, working with the same movement, we can make it harder as much as we want, right? We can come down here and pause. We can imagine we're pulling our heels toward each other as we come up, slower and slower. And let's come down 3 more times. Down, pulling the heels toward each other to come up. Dropping down, pulling the heels toward each other, stuck on the mat, but pulling. And last one. Good. And then stepping the feet underneath you. Bring your arms up into those cactus arms. Same idea here. We're going to keep those elbows, not necessarily working super hard to come forward, but a little bit. And we're going to continue then to reach outward again. Hands starting to reach outward, lengthening, lengthening. And then checking in, can we breathe into the ribs? Breathe into the back. Reaching through your fingertips, so checking in again. Can you reach a little more? Good. Now we're going to lower the arms a little bit by little bit. And I want you to turn your palms downward and then kind of start to bring them back behind you. And I'll show that by the side a little bit too. So now I've got my palms pressing back behind me. And we're going to take that transition again. Now taking the palms back behind me. At some point in your body, it's going to be the smoothest part to turn those palms up, outward again, or even upward. So then you're back out to straight out. And then lowering. At what point is it good for you to start to spiral, hands back? Keep reaching through your fingers so this can be nice, good work for the arm lines. Coming up. Switching, wherever that feels good for you. And one more time, coming down. And then releasing the arms. So maybe you notice there was a good spot to turn, and then a really kind of there might be a crackly spot for some people. At least that's my experience, is if I go too high and start to turn, I get lots of feedback from my shoulders and the tendons or the bones, I don't really know. But there's a good spot where it feels really good to make that transition. Good, we're gonna come onto the floor. So finding your way, and you'll want that pillow or blanket nearby. So we're gonna work with something we've worked with a lot, which is mini crunch or yoga sit-up, whatever you'd like to call it. But I'm going to offer for you to use that pillow or blanket, if you'd like, right there at the adrenal place. So right there, shoulder blade edges, that end of the shoulder blades. And you could have it much lower than I have. Your pillow might be squishier, whatever works for you. Bring your hands behind your head. Let that breath come in and out. Let those elbows find a sweet spot, not pressing way back. And then using this pillow here a little bit today to pull the ribs down and in, do exactly how we normally would do this, with a little more support from on your back. And then even in your upward position, it may not be as much work as we do normally, pulling the belly in, but noticing the spaciousness or the landing of the body in the back of your body. Taking that breath in and exhaling back. Letting your head rest in your hands. Now you might feel like this blanket or pillow business feels really good for you. An interesting or new way to work, or maybe much more supportive. Maybe you're feeling a lot more going on here. Or maybe you're feeling like, okay, I've done that. I think I want to go back to how I normally do it. So if that's you, you may make that adjustment of taking the pillow out and coming all the way back to the floor. So you don't have to do as I do. I want you to listen to what works for you. And that both options are really nice options. One breath up in the pose. Exhale in the pose. Inhale, slowly coming back. Lifting the head. Inhale here. Exhale, let that head come up. Shoulders come up. And whether you're with the pillow or the blanket or you're on the floor, again, breathing in the pose. Drawing that breath to your lower ribs. Side ribs. Next, inhale, slowly lowering. Good. And we'll take the hands out and let them rest either on your belly or on your side, along the sides of the body. And your pillow or blanket could come in handy here again. If you're one that, lying on your back is not as comfortable and you've got it right there, you could use it for the head here. The next couple poses, we're going to bring the knees over the hips. So the knees coming over the hips. Again, hand could be on the floor, head could be supported. And then I'm going to look at the angle of my shins here. I'm going to let the shins drop to begin with, because I'm going to let both knees come away and tap the floor with my toes. Both knees float away, tap the floor. And then noticing probably your low belly is working, maybe some hip flexors. And then if you could take your attention to your back, into that space, back ribs, noticing if you're tensing up there. And can we let a little bit of that go? We're going to need all the strength of the core here still. But is there some unnecessary tension in the shoulders or in the back throughout this movement? Now maybe the shins come up a little bit and you try letting the legs come out a little bit more. But again, attention back here. Back of the ribs. At some point in your movement, are you giving them a signal to release? Maybe it's when the knees are over the hips. You take a breath, and then you begin again doing 2 or 3 more. Tap, and pull in. And tap, and pull in. And then let's bring the feet down. Taking a breath in, letting everything rest. And we'll bring the knees up again. We're going to bring the feet up a little bit. I'm going to connect the heels, letting them be a Pilates V. Connecting the heels here. Toes will be out a little bit. And then reaching those feet out, reach through the toes. And then pull in a little bit. Reach out and pull in. And reach out and pull in. And reach out and in. Reach and pull. And I'm not really pulling all the way that I could inward. It's not necessary. Working with the belly. This nice leg strength. Pull. And we'll come down again. Letting your ribs pull back again. So letting everything in the back come back down to the floor in between here. Nice deep breath. Let's bring the hands behind the head. So now that center of the back is grounding, coming down into the floor. And can we add in the legs and continue to have some of that good connection there? So heels together, same kind of thing we just did. Reach out, come back in. Reach out, come back in. And if you find that you're really lifting in the back, low back, middle back, or there starts to build up a lot of tension around the kidneys, don't let your legs do as much work, right? Don't take the knees way in. Don't take the feet way out. Maybe the feet go a little more upward. Maybe the legs come down completely. Feet come down, head comes back. Good. Bring both knees up again. This time we're going to alternate. One leg comes in, the other one reaches out. I'm going to keep the upper body out of it to start, just getting nice and strong in my movement here. And again, your feet may be going a little more upward. Other people may have their feet going a little more parallel with the floor. And then for 5 rotations, meaning 5 that connect both legs get to go for each round, maybe you're bringing the head up, bringing the shoulders up. Three, 2, And then the feet come down. Good. So whether you have your head on the floor with that blanket resting the back ribs. It's so cool, the power of the mind here, that all we have to do is bring our attention, right, to that space in the body. Attention to that extended exhale. And there's the golden nugget of the practice for the day. Not so much all this stuff we're moving around, right? Let's bring one leg up and just grab it, catch it behind the knee or behind the thigh, wherever your arms reach. Reach that leg up toward the ceiling here. If you want to straighten it out a little bit, you can. If that doesn't feel so good, you could let your leg angle a little bit more. Let's reach through the toes, reach the heel, reach to the toe, and reach to the heel. But mostly with this movement, let the low back be really on the floor. So with your knee, if your knee isn't quite as straight as mine or whatever, it can be bent here, and we can still work with the ankle a little bit. And the low back, getting that nice grounding feeling. Knowing that everything's connected, right? Adrenals pretty closely associated to the psoas, associated to our low back. So let's bring that leg down and try the other side. Toe reaches, heel reaches, leg might be straight, it might be a little more knee bent. Breath. Very nice. All right, so then let's bring that leg down. Or if you wish, you could bring the knees in, really feel that whole back on the floor. We're also headed into gardening season, some of us, so this is good work to keep things all together for that. I'm gonna come up to your seat. Blanket or pillow, you could actually sit on it if you wanted to, it can be helpful. Otherwise, just having it off to the side for the time being. My feet are gonna be about hip width apart, maybe more. And taking a little breath in. Seeing how we feel with that amount of work. And as though I'm going to dive into the swimming pool, I'm not going to bring, you don't have to bring your hands all the way together like maybe you had to do when you were in swimming as a kid, but arms are kind of up in that area. And I'm going to, as though, remember how we had to tuck our chin a little bit in that swimming? Or we're going to make that dive, kind of, so tucking my chin a little bit, but also I'm going to reach out through the crown of my head, ribs pull in, belly pulls in, and then diving really big over, like you want to make that really big dive out there, and then inhaling to come back up. Good, exhaling to dive. Kind of up and over. Inhaling to come back up. I'm keeping my arms up, you could take them down. I'm also going to show how it would look to kind of bend the knees. If the legs are screaming, are really talking to you. What's it look like to have bent knees? Inhale, come up. Nice and tall, and exhale, reach. And inhale, coming back up. Dropping the shoulders and arms. Good. Again, knees can stay in this little bit of heels kind of digging in, bent position, or maybe they feel okay stretching, extending out. And bring your hands behind your head. I'm going to show this one straight on again, because this is one where we tend to get a little bit overzealous. So trying to hold back on your inner do more means it's going to be better. Pulling the ribs in a little bit and taking your upper body a little bit to your left side. And then maybe a little bit more. And coming back to center. A little bit to the right side. And a little bit more and back to center. So as we do this, we're going to go side to side and we can speed it up, but we're really attentive to whether we're pedaling with the feet, whether the hips are moving. So we want to keep all of that nice and steady, turning to the left. A little more, back to center, turning to the right. back to center. So it can be a little pulse, turn and pulse. Turn and pulse. Turn and pulse. Turn and pulse. Good. And bringing the arms down and relaxing the legs. And maybe you want to kind of wiggle them out. We're going to take them outward a little bit, so a little bit wider. Again, as much bend in the knees, heels digging in as you'd like to take any anxiety out of the back of the legs or even the front of the legs. So next movement, turning the body toward that, to one knee, chest toward that knee. You're going to reach your arm out, but reach the other hand back behind you. So a little bit of that work we did earlier with the palm back behind us. Belly pulls back, come back up to center, bring the arms out. Switching sides, chest turns. And again, it's a little bit like that dive up and over, coming back to center. So that front arm, even though it could maybe come back all the way or reach out all the way to the toes, your belly is working, your back arm is working to kind of counteract that movement. Reach and reach and reach. One more time each side. And last one. Good. Pulling the knees up, coming up to your feet. If you're a fan of coming up from the floor without your hands, you could cross your legs. You could come to hands and knees to come up. We're always practicing that movement of how to come up from the floor, get down to the floor. So maybe you're finding your way up in an interesting way. Good. Well, let's take I'm going to move to the side a little bit just so you can see forward folding and things like that. Allowing the breath to come in. Again, back body is what we're referencing back here. Inhale and exhale, take the arms out and up. Maybe let the chin float up, look up. And taking that forward fold. Next, inhale. And exhaling, hands at the knees or shins, or maybe the fingertips are on the floor for gorilla pose. Inhale, forward fold. Back ribs or side ribs. Exhale, take the arms out and up. Dropping the arms. Nice deep inhale. Exhale, take the arms out and up. Inhale, forward fold. Lots of bend in the knees. Exhale, gorilla pose. Inhale, forward fold. Exhaling, arms out and up. Good. And bringing the arms back down. And stepping the feet medium wide distance. Medium wide distance apart. And then turning out your right foot and letting your back toes turn in. Right foot turns out, back toes turn in. And then come back to center. So our front leg, right leg, as we turn out, we're actually externally rotating, right? We're gonna open our hip that way, our femur is turning outward. The back foot does actually the opposite, back leg doing the opposite, internally rotating. Let's come into a couple of bends here. Bending and straightening. Bending and straightening. Good. Exhaling to bend. Inhaling to straighten. Exhaling to bend. Inhale. And checking out in that back area, how are things going? As you come to that bent position, to pause. Good. Lifting that front heel up. Maybe an inch, inch and a half. And then slowly lowering that heel. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dropping that heel down through the first floor, through the basement, whatever floor you're on, all the way into the ground. Taking that nice deep breath in. Keeping this external rotation in your thigh. Maybe your belly turns a little bit more toward your screen. Keeping that external rotation, bringing the hands together. Bringing the fingertips together. Extending the arms. Breath in between the back ribs. And then let's look out over front hand. A few weeks ago, we worked with softening the forehead. Even as we look out, even as we get fatigued, breath and softness in the face. And then pressing down to straighten that knee, dropping the arms. Nice deep breath. Shifting in the feet if we need to. And then turning out left foot. So we're externally rotating that leg. Back leg is actually internally rotating, toes coming in a little bit. Exhaling to bend. Pressing down to straighten. Exhaling to bend. Inhaling to straighten. So once you've got that contact of the floor, and you've got that idea of this doesn't have to be slinging my leg out and coming back to straight without any muscular integrity, you can start to move faster and really be squeezing muscles to the bone. So if that's all making sense to you, you might be moving a little bit quicker. It's just keeping all of that nice work going. Next time you come to that bent knee position, pausing. And if all that didn't make sense, it will at some point. Bringing the heel up. Breath. Slowly lowering that heel. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dropping the heel down through the floors, into the earth, that nice moist earth from all of our nice rain. Cactus arms. External rotation as maybe we take our chest a little bit more toward the screen, keeping that knee right where it was. Extending the arms outward. Reaching through the fingertips as dynamically as we can. Let's look over that front thumb. Softening the forehead once more. Middle deep breath. Full exhale. Pressing down to straighten. Stepping your feet underneath you. Good. Inhaling. Exhaling, arms out and up. Maybe looking up, lengthening the front of the throat. Inhaling, forward fold. Exhaling, stepping into downward dog. Taking a couple breaths here in your downward dog. Checking out foot orientation, what feels best. Head relaxing. Really letting the head relax. We tend to hold ourselves up a little bit here, unintentionally. Breath in between the ribs, side ribs or back ribs. And then stepping the feet forward. No pose. Inhaling, forward fold. Exhaling, arms out and up. And taking the arms back down. Good. Feet, taking the feet wide. Good. Your first side, externally rotating right leg, internally rotating back leg. Coming to that bent position, pausing. Good. Soft in the face. Maybe that's the jaw for you. Maybe the forehead is really working. And bring your hands to your belly. And you might find that here too, as we bring our hands to the belly, awareness to the belly, you might find your chest turn a little bit more toward that front leg. Perfectly natural and maybe even beneficial for what we're going to do next. Taking our belly and taking our belly forward over the top of that thigh. So we come to some kind of bent position here, extended head, and bringing a hand to that knee. Good. With your other hand on the belly still, opening the belly a little bit away from that leg. Good. Everybody will be at their own spot here. That hand can come to your waist. And checking in, can I breathe here into those ribs? Same as I have been. And as I slide my hand up, let's bring the hand right behind the head. Can I breathe here? And as I reach that elbow upward and then extend my arm, can I still breathe? Medium deep breath, ribs connecting. And if you want more challenge, can still breathe so nicely, soft face. Maybe your other hand becomes free. Sinking your awareness into your feet to press down and come up. Coming to center, softening the face, and we'll switch sides. Externally rotating left leg, internally rotating back leg, toes turn in. Awareness to my belly as I bend the knee. Bringing hands to the belly, I might end up turning my belly a little bit more toward that front leg for this part. Taking my belly right over the top. Hand coming to the knee. Other hand on the belly, maybe spinning the belly a little bit more toward my screen. Knee staying right where it is. Hand comes to the waist. Checking in with the breath. I feel that breath in the back body. As I bring my hand to the back of the head, just like mini crunch position for the hands. Reaching that elbow upward, extending the arm. Still that nice, deep, sweet breath. And maybe I crawl up that leg a little bit. Breathing becomes easier. Maybe I take that hand support away, or even bend the front knee just a titch more. How much is a titch? I don't know. That's your definition. Feeling your feet, pressing them down through the floor to come up. Stepping your feet underneath you. Good. Inhaling. Exhaling, arms out and up. Inhaling, forward fold. Letting the head go, shoulders go. Exhaling, your gorilla pose. Stepping back, inhaling to downward dog. Couple of breaths here in downward dog. And coming from bent knees, shins forward. Lifting the hips upward. And maybe you don't have socks on, maybe you can see the fronts of your ankles. And how, as you lift your heels up, the wrinkles at the front of the ankles start to disappear. You can try that again, bending the knees. Lots of wrinkles. lifting the hips. Slowly, gradually, smoothing out the fronts of the ankles. And then coming down to hands and knees. And resting either in child's pose or puppy pose. You can rest the forearms down and rest your head in puppy pose. Or if you prefer, taking the hips back. Full breath into the back body. And then gradually coming up. So on hands and knees here, or seated on your heels, we're going to work just with getting the crown of the head to the floor today. So a little bit of headstand prep. And ideally, you're working with the part of your head here that sometimes is a little bit further back than people think. So if you come to the very tippy top of your head here and you think you can find the toppest part of your head, you're going to take 2 fingers in front and then skip leapfrog right in front of that. And that's about the area that you'd like to tuck your chin enough to bring that area to the floor. So whether we get it just right or not isn't as important today as getting our crown on the head, or crown of the head on the floor a little, but having an idea of where that is, to where you're going with it, is nice. We're not going to, any of us, go up into headstand unless we're super familiar with that pose. So then the arms. The way I was taught seems to work really well. It's like a tripod. I bring my hands together. They're loosely knit together, and my head is going to go in front of the hands. So I'm going to bring them down to the floor, and my elbows on the floor. My elbows and my wrists really press down, interlace the fingers, and now I'm going to do that head tuck, and I'm going to try to remember or sense where that spot is, tucking the chin and bringing my head down in between my arms, not between my hands so much as between my wrists and my forearms. And just letting the weight of your head be on the floor. And if you want to play around with it a little bit, you could press your elbows down and notice how it lifts your head all the way up. And then put your crown of your head back down and let all the weight come into the crown of the head. Pressing down, you could lift your head away, working with the shoulders. That's a nice way to get ready for all the way up headstand, or more weight on the head. Let the crown of the head come back down one more time. Full exhale here. Full breath. And then rest back into child's pose. Then let's take that forward from your child's pose, coming to hands and knees and walking your knees back, bringing your hands a little bit wider than they normally would be, and let your hips come forward. Pressing down through your hands, finding that just right spot for the hips. Pressing the floor away, pulling your belly up, because that's what's really going to support the adrenals here too. So supporting in the back body, it's almost as though you're going to ask for a little bit of a cat pose. So just the cat pose, just starting to arc, keeping that as you lower down. All the way down to the floor. Finding the just right spot for your hands. I ended up moving mine in a little bit to push up. You might push up only a little bit, chest comes up, and then you're good and you're coming back down. Or you might take that nice deep breath in. Softness in my back as I come up. So that's a tricky thing to work with. Working with the push up, and keeping things nice and broad right there between that area that we've been talking about, right there in the adrenals. All the way down. One more time, pressing up. And coming back down. So again, it's almost like I'm going to press back so much that I'm starting to round. And as I come down, I assure you I probably lose that. But I'm going to keep thinking about that as I come all the way down. And this time resting. Let's take the arms out to the side in the T. Nice deep breath. And with your arms in this T, we're going to do that same movement here. And you might end up gliding your arms along the floor. You might be able to lift them and do this. But that same movement we started out kind of toward the beginning of class of bringing my hands down and up and then all turning my palms upward at some point. And then they're hovering alongside the body in that locust position. And I'm going to come back the same way. Locust arms, palms up, until some point where I can turn them and bring them out into that T. Reaching through the fingertips, the more you reach, the harder it'll be. The more you might sense this. Again, gliding along the floor or just above. And then turning the arms for locust. Let's do that one more time, coming up. Turning the arms when it is the right spot for you, right juncture. And one more time, coming back. Reach the head nice and long. Perhaps the shoulder blades draw in a little bit in the locust pose here. And just notice with the upper body reaching, the head reaching, long neck, can you have that nice breath? Can you feel the front of the ribs grounding? And can you draw that breath into your back? And then coming down to rest, maybe bring the hands there to support your forehead. And you can keep your head there. I'm going to lift myself up just a little bit for talking's purposes, but you can keep your head on your forehead, on your hands if you'd like. I'm going to work a little bit with extending the legs. I'm going to take one leg back behind us, reaching through the toes. Keeping the hips on the ground, especially that hip that we're reaching with, not reaching so high that that hip is lifting for sure. In fact, I'm pretty low with that leg, reaching through the toes. And checking in with my low back, connected right into the adrenals, and letting that leg come back down. Other side, as you lift the leg up, you may feel a lot of work coming from your low back. Let your leg do this work, maybe the glute. But if we just lift that leg just off the floor, reach through the toes, start to ask a little bit more of the hamstrings and encourage a lot more spacious breath in here between the ribs and the sacrum and the low back here. Breath, breath, and lowering that leg. And letting everything go, maybe taking your hips side to side just to remind you, trying to let everything soften here that we're not using, that you don't need to use. Good, and then how do we lift both legs and not grip all the way up into our kidneys? So head down, head is still where it was, and lifting both legs just off the floor. Can you take that nice medium deep breath all the way to these back ribs? Exhale. Reaching through the toes, all the work you could want through that reach. And then bringing the arms down. Arms are going to come out, or legs down, bring the arms out in front. So same thing for the upper body. As soon as we start to move it, we like to move from where it's most easy, and that might be right at that juncture, right at this place in the middle of the back. So even as we come up here, arms might be a little bit broad here. And as we lift the arms off the floor, the nose and chin are hovering, or maybe even an inch or two away from the floor. Keeping the breath nice and broad. Keeping the breath moving. And that might mean that you back off a little bit from what your normal is, whatever that is. And you let it be a little bit less high with the hands, a little less high with the arms, and then the feet just floating off. Can you maintain that spaciousness in the back? Softness in the face. Breath moving in this position. Letting the arms come down, supporting the head, letting the feet come down. And then we're going to find our way up to hands and knees so we can find our blanket again. And why not, since we have it, use it. With that blanket or pillow, you're going to put it on the floor here for you and lie down on one side, facing your screen. I'm going to draw the knees up, lying on this side here. And you could be a little more relaxed with your head than I am. I'm working with a microphone, so I'm trying it out today. And so my both arms are going to be out in front, resting on that side of the body. And let yourself really come into that awareness of the ribs dropping here. Ribs are on the floor. Top rib exhales and can drop. And then as you're ready, you're going to take those arms apart, take the hand up toward the ceiling, and then let your head adjust, looking up toward that hand. And softening the face and forehead. The other hand might come to your heart space, as that's where we'd like to move from next. The heart space opening, opening, opening. Knees are nicely stacked. They're not going to move at all. Let the knees stay. And just be real easy and soft with your movement here. Chest is opening. Arm is coming along for the ride. I did have to support my arm a little bit with my own efforts here. And I want to move to a place only where I can take those breaths. Only to where I can keep my face soft. And only to where my top leg hasn't shifted. Just in this one today, not that we can never shift the top knee, but today, keeping the top knee right on top of the bottom knee. Breath comes in. Breath goes out, and then taking this arm up with the next inhale. And coming back onto your side. Bringing the hands together. Exhaling the ribs down toward the floor again. And then you'll find your way to your other side. you know what's coming, so maybe listening to my instruction is fine. You don't need to make a huge adjustment, just rolling over to your other side. Good. So on the second side, knees coming up to that 90-degree position. I know everybody can do it because we all sit in chairs. So the knees draw up at least that far. And they're stacked. Hips are stacked. Knees are stacked. Ribs are stacked. Can you feel the ribs on this side? Just let them land. Let your head land. Let your shoulders land. And then when you're ready, taking that top arm up. And then looking up toward it. It helps to kind of take our head along for that ride to start. And then hand to the heart. If that helps you remember that we're not moving from our shoulder joint or this hand way up here. We're going to move from our heart space. Slowly, gradually opening the heart space. And only going so far as we can still have these nice, smooth, middle deep breaths. As you're ready, you'll inhale, take that hand back up toward the ceiling. Exhale, start to stack yourself back up on your side. Ribs stacked and lowering to the floor. Jaw releasing, forehead softening. And then you'll come onto your back. And a couple of options here on your back are to pull the knees in and have that nice, the whole back kind of coming to the floor feeling. It's a great way to end practice here. A few breaths there. Another option is to extend the legs upward. We don't haven't called for a prop here to a strap to hold them. You can even hold on a little bit with the back. If your arms are really long like mine are. Long arms help in yoga so much. Just holding your legs if you'd like to. And bent knees or pulling the legs in, also a great way to just let everything really land here. Just noticing for yourself. And then when you're ready, bring the legs back down. And then I do encourage you, again, if you've had this pillow or folded blanket all of practice, taking your hands to the head, lengthening the back of the neck and bringing it down to that nice pillow or blanket. So the chin is tucked a little bit, but there's lots of length in the back of the neck. And the thing with that you might want to play with too is how high your head is. If it's not so high, if you're on a really thin pillow or blanket, you may not feel the grounding you could feel in the back ribs. So sometimes on purpose, I'll lift my head up just a little bit higher to get that really solid kidneys, adrenals, get that nice grounded feeling. And the other thing I'll suggest to start out your Shavasana is to keep the knees bent. I like to tent mine in so they don't have to work very much. But starting out at least with the knees bent. And if you want to, after a minute or so, you could extend the legs if you'd like. But when we extend the legs, a lot of times that'll pull on the psoas a little bit and it'll pull up in the back a little bit. And you can just see if that's true for you. Just because it's true for me doesn't mean it's true for you. And so starting with the knees bent, head supported. Hands can be on the belly, or hands can be resting alongside the body. And just like we mentioned a couple times in class, you can soften the jaw, jaw slack. The lips might even just partly be separated in that jaw slackening. I mean, you're slack jawed or completely wide open in the mouth, and we're not necessarily breathing through the mouth, but there's that much relaxation in the face. Softening the eyebrows right over the eyes to the cheekbones. Softening the forehead. Allowing the scalp to release. You might bring your attention to the inhales and exhales, lightly touching the ribs. So you can feel or sense your ribs, not with your hands, with your mind, expanding and dropping with each breath. Using your mind again and your imagination of the back of the body that's in contact with the floor, where those kidneys might be. All those organs are indeed shaped like kidney beans. There are little hats on each one of them that are called your adrenal glands. As we work with that area of the body, letting it land, giving it some breath, and releasing its tension right out into the floor. You might imagine the substance just oozing out, taking any tension away. The earth will absorb it. The earth will turn it around. If you wanted to extend your legs, you're welcome to do so at any time. We'll spend another moment or so here quietly. And then as you're ready, if you've extended the legs, gradually bringing them in. Drawing the knees in and rolling to your side. Then landing the body on your side body. With that full exhale. You got nothing else out of today's class. Landing your body with an exhale, whether through the feet, your seat, the ribs, whatever is contacting earth or support. A great way to start to calm the nervous system. Start unraveling unintended or unconscious anxiety, even conscious anxiety. So we can have better sleep, better relationships, and just feel more grounded in our purpose. As you come up to seated, pressing yourself up, you might bring your hands together. You might think of a time today when you can check in or set a timer for yourself on your phone or wherever to just breathe. Just let that exhale go. Bring that attention to your back body, that attention to the fact that you're supported by the earth. And with gratitude for this practice, for all the mentors, colleagues, for each student here, for each individual, I'm so grateful to have you in my life, to be able to practice together at this time. And I wish you the very best day possible. Namaste. Again, I'll